Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Just Greg. Got a fun one for you guys today. A little history lesson, if you will. History that I don't even know if it's real, but it's hilarious. Sometimes those are the best history lessons. So I stumbled on this one and just kind of looked up obscure, uh, I don't know what you would call it, stories, historical stories, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't remember what I searched, but this one came up and I was like, this is hilarious. So I'm going to share it with you guys. So, first things, go out, like, subscribe, do all the things you would normally do for us on The Bar is Open with Beth and Greg. I'd appreciate that. All right, let's jump into this. The poop knife survival legend. Yes, I said the poop knife. If you've never heard of a poop knife, we're going to get into that. A tale of Arctic ingenuity, desperation, and scientific scrutiny. This is a story that I actually found. So here we go. In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Canadian Arctic, where temperatures plunge to negative 50 degrees Celsius and the wind howls like a vengeful spirit, survival has always been a delicate dance with death. The Inuit people, masters of the frozen world, have long been celebrated for their resourcefulness, turning snow into shelters, seal blubber into fuel, and even fish wrapped in moss into sled runners. But among their legends, few capture the raw essence of human tenacity, quite like the story of the poop knife. Now, if you've never heard of what a poop knife is, this is something it's literally this. It's a knife that you cut poop with. That's it. You've probably heard about it more modernly known as the poop knife for when somebody has a giant deuce and you need to break it up. But this story is much deeper than that. It's a tale that blends desperation, dark humor, and a dash of grotesque. A narrative so improbable it inspired scientists to test it with their own materials. Yet, as we'll see, what began as a whisper around an igloo fire has evolved into a modern cautionary fable about the blurred line between myth and reality. So the legend takes shape, a grandfather's defiant stand. And this, I'm just going to add this little photo in here because it just adds context. This is what I would picture if we were looking back. And it's a man, a statue of a man with a poop knife, or it's just a regular knife. Because technically a poop knife is just a regular knife, but the story is going to get into something a little bit deeper. The actual real poop knife. So I just like that. I just think it's funny. There's actually a dude. You get what I'm saying. The story, as it's most commonly told, unfolds in the early 1950s during a turbulent era for the Inuit, the Canadian government, in a well intentioned but culturally disruptive push towards modernization, was relocating nomadic families from remote ice flows to centralized settlements. These high Arctic relocations, as they came to be known, aimed to integrate the Inuit into sedentary life, providing access to schools, healthcare, and jobs. But for many elders, it meant abandoning the ancient rhythms of hunting, migration, and spiritual connection to the land, a betrayal of everything that they'd sustained their people for millennia. Enter our unnamed protagonist, an elderly Inuit grandfather, grizzled by decades of battling blizzards and polar bears. He was a traditionalist, a man whose soul was tethered to the ice. While his family, perhaps his son, daughter in law, and grandchildren, yearned for the relative comforts of the settlement, the old man refused to budge. The land is my home, he might have growled in, I can't say this word, Inuktitut, something like that. It's the Inuit's language. His voice steady as permafrost, fearing government reprisals if he stayed behind alone. His family hatched a desperate plan. They stripped him of his tools. No ulu, the curved woman's knife for skinning seals. No harpoon. No knife. No snow knife for building igloos. Nothing but the clothes on his back and the endless white void outside his sod and snow dwelling. The old man was no fool. As the family slept one frigid night, he slipped out into the howling gale. The temperature was bone numbing, the kind that freezes exposed skin in minutes. He did what any human must in such isolation. He defecated. In the sub zero air, his waste froze almost instantly into brittle, ice hard lumps. With calloused hands, numb from the cold, he shaped it, molding the frozen mass into a rudimentary blade, perhaps 6 inches long and as wide as the man's palm. To sharpen its edge, he employed an old trick. A quick spray of warm saliva, which froze on contact to a glassy hone, allowing him to whittle the feces knife to a lethal point. Dawn broke with the family in panic. They assumed he'd freeze in the sub-zero. Instead, they found him gone, vanished into a storm. Days later, rumors trickled back through hunting parties that the old man had survived. With his makeshift blade, he'd slain a stray sled dog, its warm blood a fleeting comfort against the chill. He skinned the beast using its rib cage as a frame for a crude sled and its hide to fashion harnesses. Hitching the sled to another dog he'd taken, he fashioned the harness. Messed that up. Yep, there we go. Hitching the sled to another dog he'd captured, he pulled away into the blinding white horizon, a solitary figure reclaiming his freedom, one frozen step at a time. He was never seen again in the settlement, but his legend endured. Proof that even in the nadir of human vulnerability, the body could yield a weapon of escape, the poop knife. And there's where it starts off. That's how it goes. That's the legend. All right. So what happens now is this vivid first account gained widespread traction throughout the world of Wade Davis, a renowned anthropologist, explorer, and self-proclaimed real-life Indiana Jones. In his 1998 book, Shadows in the Sun travels to landscapes of spirit and desire, Davis recounted the tale as shared with him by an Inuit elder, can't say his last name, we'll call him Olayok, during a fireside chat in the 1980s. Davis painted it not just as folklore, but as a profound metaphor for Inuit resilience. True or not, it's a wonderful symbol of ingenuity and resilience of the Inuit people, traits of culture that have allowed them to survive. He later reflected in interviews. The story resonated deeply, echoing in TED Talks. I don't know if that's really true, but one with over 3.8 million views. I didn't do any homework on this. I've not done any research other than finding some cool pictures and stuff. Like academic papers and pop culture symbolized how the Inuit, long marginalized by colonial forces, could turn the most base elements of existence, waste, literally into tools of defiance. Yet whispers of its origins trace back further to the 1920s journals of Danish Greenlandic explorer Peter Freuchen, trapped in a blizzard with a broken arm and no tools. Freuchen allegedly defecated into a mold, using his boot in some versions, froze it solid, and chiseled a tunnel to freedom with the icy shard. Freuchen's yarn, published in his adventure memoirs, might have been the seed embellished over decades into the Inuit legend. Whether the old man heard of it, or the writer heard of it from Freuchen's writings, or as oral tradition, it is lost to the winds. But the core idea persisted. In the Arctic, nothing is wasted, not even shit. So the legend spread from igloo fireside to global myth. By the 2000s, the poop knife had transcended its Arctic roots, becoming a staple of extreme survival lore. It popped up in survivalist forums, anthropology textbooks, and even casual dinner party anecdotes. Do you know that the Inuit invented a knife from frozen poop? Someone might quip, eliciting gasps and chuckles. For non-scientists, it was irresistible, a grossed out twist on the David and Goliath trope, where the underdog, or elder, outsmarts fate with sheer grit. It humanized the Inuit, stripping away stereotypes of primitive peoples and replacing them with images of clever, unflinching survivors. But for anthropologists like Metin Aaron, then a wide eyed high schooler in Ohio, the story was transformative. Tuning into a radio interview with Davis in the early 2000s, Aaron heard the tale was hooked. It fueled my decision to become an anthropologist. This is the one that got you. God love you. He later said, fast forward to 2018, now an assistant professor at Kent State University and co-director of Aaron Lab for Experimental Archaeology. Aaron revisited the legend amid a rising tide of fake news. In an era where misinformation could sway elections or deny climate change's grip on the very Arctic the Inuit called home, Aaron saw the poop knife as a perfect test case. Anthropologists must actively seek out unsupported claims and test them, he argued. Why not apply scientific method to this most unglamorous of myths? So here's a couple of poop knives just for, oh, you know what? First things first. This is probably the size of the shit that you probably need to have. Because, if you haven't eaten a lot, you're not really defecating that much. But this is the biggest poop ever found, prehistoric poop ever found. Look at that monstrosity. That thing's huge. That dude's hand, that's one, and that's a human one. They found, I think they DNA tested. I've seen this one in the news before. So, all right. And then of course you've got, a camp poop knife, right? Everybody's got one of those at their camps, especially up north, New England, like Minnesota, especially, probably, the Dakotas. They probably have a camp poop knife. Hopefully that's not, you don't want to mistake camp poop knife for like peanut butter and jelly knife. That's right. Do your dishes, put it away, leave that one in the outhouse or wherever it goes. I don't know where you put a poop knife. I've never had to use one. All right. The Great Poop Knife Experiment. Science meets stool. Aaron assembled a team of grad students and colleagues in the unlikeliest lab setup imaginable, a negative 20 degrees Celsius chest freezer in a nondescript Ohio basement, stocked with, not with TV dinners, but with donated human feces. It's going to be a messy, messy experience. To mimic authenticity, they source samples from two diets: Western, high-fat, low-fiber fast food, and Inuit-inspired, fatty meats and minimal veggies, simulating seal blubber and caribou. The goal? Replicate the legend step by step and to see if a frozen feces blade could actually butcher a dog or at least slice through a pig hide as a proxy. Yeah, that would be bad. Phase 1, molding. Some samples were packed into metal molds to form a uniform blade. Others hand-shaped for that artisanal old man touch. They filed the edges smooth, then popped them into the freezer for hours. For extra chill and to echo the Arctic's bite, the knives were buried in negative 50 degrees Celsius dry ice just before testing. Phase 2, sharpening. Spritzed saliva froze into the makeshift whetstone, just like the story. Finally, the moment of truth. Could these poopsicles cut? The results were, they were underwhelming. The blades, brittle as they were, shattered on impact with the hide. Others simply melted from the body heat and friction, leaving behind smeary brown streaks of zero slices. They were non-functional. Unfortunately, at least you guys don't have to do this now. The team deadpanned in their 2019 paper in the Journal of Archaeological Science reports at a time when this entire world of the Inuit is literally melting beneath them, he noted. Such experiments felt trivial next to the real crisis that thawing permafrost and vanishing hunting grounds. Aaron agreed the test wasn't to debunk Inuit genius. They have crafted wonders from fish and bone. Of course they have. But to ground legends in evidence, lest they fuel doubt in genuine oral histories. So that's kind of the science and the history testing. I think it's always cool. You should test these things out. Use the scientific method, right? That's the way to do it. Legacy of the poop knife. So today there's a little bit different poop knife. You don't have to use those examples I gave you. There's a shinier version, a newer version, right? Today in 2025, the poop knife endures as a cultural artifact, debunked yet undiminished. As it's it's a reminder that stories aren't always literal. They're vessels for deeper truths. For the Inuit, it underscores a philosophy of cycles. Waste as resource, death as rebirth. The body is both the burden and boon. In a warming world where their ice home shrinks daily, such tales of reversal turning vulnerability into victory offer quite defiance. The original man's grandfather, real or not, embodies that. Whether he vanished into legend or simply trudged off to die in dignity, his knife cut through more than hide. It sliced open our imaginations, forcing us to confront the absurd beauty of survival. And if you ever find yourself toolless in the tundra, well, at least you know not to reach for the obvious. Grab a fish instead, or better yet, tell a story. In the Arctic, that's the sharpest blade of all. It's a great story, I think, right? But what really got me on this one is somebody made a commercial about this, right? Gave a little history on it as I was digging around trying to find some stuff on this. Somebody had already done a commercial, like a historical kind of thing. And you know what? You can even probably find one of these poop knives. Here we go.
Let me tell you the real story of the poop knife. If anyone has laid a mega poop, you know sometimes it won't flush. So growing up, our family had an old rusty kitchen knife that had only one purpose. Fast forward to age 22 and I'm over at my friend's house. I lay a gigantic turd, so I reach out to my friend for her poop knife. By what? Maybe she calls it by a more delicate name. A fecal cleaver? A dung divider? A guano-glaive? I explain what it is and everyone starts laughing. It turns out none of them had poop knives. It was just my weird family.
My life.
But that's not the end of the story. You see, the virality of this hapless tale would go on to inspire a revolutionary new invention. The poop knife. Buy it now at
That19.
That19 did a great job putting that together. So here's actually a better picture of that. So trusted by butts everywhere. Poop knife. That19. Good job, That19. I'll tag you below. I'll see if I can find the actual thing. Maybe you could, if you want to go buy one, put it, just leave it in the bathroom as a talking point. People used to leave books in their bathrooms and stuff like that, like a magazine. My aunt family back in the day used to put the Inquirer or the Star or something like that. Just leave a poop knife right. Don't use it because that's fucking gross. You don't need to use that thing. Just put it right next to where somebody would be seated or on the, poopery. That's a thing. Put it right beside the poopery. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Kind of fun, just goofy, but the poop knife, the history, the science, and even the current state of affairs with the poop knife. So cheers. Catch you guys next time.